implementation to make good, informed, fast, and de-risked decisions. And the purpose is basically to expose the idea to the practicality of the real world. We're often stuck in our own fantasies that our idea is worth $1 billion startup, but it's important for it to have a reality check before you build and release a final product or offering. See, an idea should be validated before investing a significant amount of time and resources in developing it. To avoid building and launching a product or concept no one wants or isn't willing to pay for. So it's better that your idea is before validated before you have invested all your resources. And it is also to make sure that your idea has some real demand in the real world. Otherwise, there's a very big risk of it just becoming like just another cool idea in the market. We can move ahead. And here are a few examples of idea validation to get you familiar with it. First of all, in the number one, you can see the beta version of games. So beta version of games is when the software is feature complete, but it may have some bugs like here and there. So they release it only to a specific set of audience to test it before actually releasing it into the complete market. And then checking movie reviews before going to the movies. We see stand-up comedians use open mics to validate their jokes. And let me tell you more about A or B testing also. See, A/B testing, it compares the performances of two versions of the same product just to check which is appealing more to the target audience, to your customers. It will test in this testing, like we control version A against version B and measure which is more successful based on whatever your KPIs are and whatever key performance like metrics are. So that is what A/B testing is. And dog fooding, it's a very interesting concept. Dog fooding is like eating your own dog food. Basically, it is a practice when an organization is using its own products internally. Say if your organization is like a vehicle building company, then you yourself drive them first before releasing it into the market. As simple as that. Because you want to test it out yourself first and get it validated properly before you move it on and get it into the market. Moving ahead. Yeah. So now, how can we validate our idea? That is the most important question. But before we move ahead, let us answer that with the next page. Yes. Why is it important to validate our idea? Because why is the most important part of it all. How comes later? So let's understand the why first. The first very obvious point, because our brain hates them. We avoid facing the hard truths, or we don't want to listen that our idea might not be feasible for the real world. Idea might fail. We want to be stuck in our own fantasy that we have the perfect idea ever and it is worth being a very good starter. So validating gives us a reality check that yes, is it even worth getting it into the market, or it's just good for the papers. Secondly, to make informed decisions, to gather crucial information which will help make our product better and make it time effective, make it cost effective. And the third one, we'll delve into these points into the whys more later on as well. And the third point is think twice, cut once. Because it's you can think twice, but once you've cut, you cannot undo the action. And that is very important when you have an idea to launch in the market. It costs a lot of resources and time. So you need to be able to have it in the best possible condition before getting it out in the market. Moving to the next page. Yes. Now, I feel like this pretty much sums up all the major whys of idea validation. It saves efforts, it tests timing, it helps in execution. There is resource optimization, it reduces risks. And speaking more on all of the above pointers, the most important reason is to save time, money, and effort at an early stage before investing too many resources, as I had said earlier as well. See, the further down the development line you go, the harder, the costlier, and less appealing it is to go all the way back up and start over. It takes a lot of mental capacity, a lot of mental effort to do that. And another reason is also to spare the world from another mediocre product. It has enough of it already. You don't have to be the next Steve Jobs, but it's every entrepreneur's and designer's dream to come up with a product that brings some real value to the world. It solves some real problems out there. And just as the saying says, survival of the fittest. You need to put your ideas to the test to make sure which are the worthy ones and which one will be able to make it. And also in business and marketing, I needed to important one very crucial thing. There is one thing that you need to learn, that change is constant. There is an ever evolving market and market trends and market conditions. Everything is dynamic. So if you don't change with time, if you don't keep researching what is the new in the trends, what is going on right now, you'll fall back behind, and even the best of ideas can fail if not researched properly. Moving on. Yes, this is also a very good, I think, visualization of the real world scenario. If we have the funds to do, if we can make a brilliant idea into a brilliant execution. But that execution costs us money. So we need to use our intelligence to gather a very feasible and the most cost effective plan for our idea, given our resources, given our funds. As you can see the quote written here, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And here the punch in the face is how much it costs. But we will help you to have executions and idea validation strategies which are cost effective and feasible. So they can help you better because we're all students, and it does most of us do not have these many funds for the idea validation part. So let's just move on to the further into the session. A little meme break for you. You can have a look. Yeah, we can go ahead. Now look at this. See, entrepreneurship, as it is written, it takes confidence, it takes determination, it tests you to your core, and it takes perseverance. And sometimes a thought comes up in an entrepreneur's mind while validating the idea that his or her vision is very strong, is very grand, and is very big. But idea validation is not letting him or her live up to that grand vision. And one thing I need you to understand is validating the idea is not making the vision ungrand or less appealing to you. It's just to make it more real and just to save your resources. And uh, so instead of the idea all being in your head, it is to offer you a more on ground perspective that what will happen if you actually do, if you actually launch your idea. So this is what you need to understand, that the vision can still remain wrong, still remain strong and as grand as you want to be, but it should have a realistic check to it. And that is not being weak, that is being smart. Moving on. Now, this part is very important because here we're actually talking about how idea validation works. And these are the four very important steps. If you follow them properly, you can get your idea validated very well. So let's talk about these steps one by one. So the first step is defining your goal. See, just like any idea related activity, validation starts with defining your goals. In this stage, you just need to decide what you want to learn or what aspect, what particular aspect you want to validate. You can only work on one aspect at a time. So think about which is the question that is most important to you when it comes to your own idea, your own startup. Your goal can be anything. I'll give you a few examples. Your goal can be about the problem. That is your problem worth solving. Your goal can be of the solution. Is your product or the offer, is the product or offer that you're giving, is it solving the actual problem? Is the solution even good enough? It could be about the features. Is the core features of your product, are the core features of your product good enough? Do they even work to solve the problem? It could be maybe about a business model. That is your business model viable? Is it scalable? Or it could be about the price. Is there enough demand to make your business model work with the price you've set? How does your pricing model work in practice? Not on paper, but in practice. So you need to pick one question out of all of these, or even more. These are just a few examples that are given, and you need to define your goal here. And let's say, let me give an example. Let's say your idea is to sell contact lenses online with a monthly subscription. Now, here subscription is an important part. Now you know that let's say, let me know that the market is growing and it will be about, say, $10.5 billion in 2025. So there's no need to do separate market validation. In this case, your most critical assumption is that yeah. In this case, the most critical assumption is mostly related to the price because you're talking about a subscription-based platform, and so it's mostly related to the price. And your goal is to learn what is the right price point that your monthly for your monthly contact lens plan for the subscription plan, because you see that the market is growing, so you know there's space. But how much should be the exact price point? So that would be the goal in this case if you want to have a startup for selling contact lenses online. Let's move on to the next step now, developing a hypothesis. Now, after you've defined the goal for validation, it's time to develop a hypothesis based on that goal. Hypothesis is like an educated guess on how things work. And in the context of validation, your hypothesis is your guess. about what will happen when you run the experiment. Once you have a hypothesis, you can start developing your experiment. Now, see, creating hypotheses can be done in various ways, but at its core, a reasonable hypothesis should have these four important factors. First one being testable. You should be able to design an experiment that will allow you to test your hypothesis. Second, it should be specific enough. Your hypothesis should be specific enough that you can measure whether it's true or it is not true. Third, it should be measurable. You should be able to collect data that will help you to determine whether hypothesis is true or it is not true. And last, and the fourth one, it should be time bound. Your experiment should have a start and end date to know if your hypothesis is valid within a given time frame. Now, see, hypotheses, coming up with hypotheses isn't difficult. But as you can see in the second point here, what is the minimum success criteria? That is what's difficult. Let's say in case of Airbnb example, if if we can say that 8 people out of 10 would rather sleep in a hotel room than on someone's couch, which is exactly what Airbnb does it mean it is failed startup? It is not. So you need to think what is the minimum success criteria for you. What is the minimum number that you want that you'd consider it a success? You'd consider your hypothesis a success. Yeah. And next step would be to experiment and then revise. Once you have developed a hypothesis, you can start validating that assumption by running experiments. Now, this is where you're putting your hypothesis to the test. And you need to design an experiment and collect data. That is the most important part. Design an experiment and collect data to do it. And the point of experimentation is to basically find the cheapest and the fastest way to test your assumption and practice. Say an experiment is, a set of tests that would measure the effects of the hypothesis, or it is to learn if your assumption is true or not, the assumption that we made earlier. Now, often like the initial idea is just a starting point for a better and more refined idea, because you almost always need to improve it. So when you're going through the validation process, you always have a chance to know how to make your product better or your idea better. And the last step would be to validate and develop. Now, although validation isn't always a guarantee of success, okay, you need to go in this process with that mindset. It might not always be success. And it is the execution that matters. Having validated like the most critical assumptions and using all the data that you've gathered, the validation process will very much help you when you start developing and implementing your idea. Now, this might involve maybe like changing your product or service or adjusting your business model a bit, your financial model, or maybe revising the marketing strategy that you have. Whatever it is, the goal is one, to use all the data that you've gathered in your idea validation process in your experimentation and to make your business better using those insights. And with it, we'll take it up further.
Yeah, so hello guys. So now that you have learned the importance of validating ideas and why you should validate idea at a very early stage, we can move ahead to actually how to validate ideas. So before diving into the world of validation, we first have to solidify the ideas, the vision that we have. Just grab a pen and paper and just document all the ideas that we have. And this step is very important before validation because we might have a lot of random ideas lingering in our minds, and like most of them, they would not be very practical always. So in order to filter out the most practical ones, we have to document our ideas. But while documenting our ideas, we don't have to let the vision and or let the aim of the product like be buried in our thoughts. We have to write down the idea in very detail. So as in what problem are we solving, what service are we offering, what is the target audience. And while documenting these ideas, we'll realize that we have made so during the product building process, we might make a lot of assumptions about the market and the target audience. So we have to list these assumptions, as in who will use the product or like what existing solutions are out there. And for that, we have to conduct some research to see if to see if these assumptions are true or not, or are there any similar products? And if yes, they are there, then what are the strengths and weaknesses? And based on all these facts and all the details of the product, we then have to formulate a set of we have to formulate a set of questions, and these are called the golden questions. And these will actually guide you to get your validation process. So the very first question would be who. So who is your ideal customer, and what is the age, the geographic demographics, and the interest, the behavior of the target audience, and this will help us paint a very clear picture of the audience we are targeting. And coming on to the next, we have the what. So what problems are we exactly trying to solve, and what features in the product we're trying to solve that particular problem. You need to have a very clear idea about that. Then moving ahead, we have the when and the where. So when and where we are using solutions. So is it an everyday tool, or is it a luxury item? And then moving on to the very important, yet the most overlooked questions that that most of the entrepreneurs try to overlook is that the why. So knowing the why of your product is very important. So there's a rule called the golden circle rule, which states that so whenever you start with the why, then move to the how and then the what. So what generally people do is that they build a product and then they sell it and they tell the people how to use it. But so most of the cases we don't try to answer the why of the product. Answering the why is basically to answer what motivates. So what will motivate the people to buy the product? So there would be an aim, there would be a vision. Because of that, you have built the product, and it is important to ask that to yourself. It is important to understand that, and then to answer that. And and it is also equally important to convey this to the people. We have to make people believe in what we believe, and by that only we get custom. We'll get customers. And moving ahead, we have to the last question: how? So how will people use the product that we have? We have to think about the user journey and how well the solution will fit in their lives. And by taking these steps, we have a roadmap for validating our right. So remember that a very strong foundation is the key to a successful future for a startup. And after we have noted down the points, and after we have answered all these questions, we can move ahead to mentioning assumptions that we made. So during the process, we might make a lot of assumptions, right? So regarding the problem solution that we are, the problem statement that we're trying to solve, regarding the ideas that we have, or regarding the market, the target audience, all the value proposition. So we have to mention all these assumptions that we have made. We should not miss out on the assumptions. And then we should base our idea on the fundamental needs and verifiable data. We should verify these assumptions through market research, through user research. We have a lot of techniques for that. And conducting this research is to identify any gaps in the market. Are there any similar products out there, or if they are there, what are the trends and weaknesses? So these are the steps that you should do before you validate your idea. And now, when we are finally to validate the assumptions that we made, we have different techniques to validate the assumptions. So we have community feedback, we have the MOMS test, and we have A/B testing. So the first one is community feedback. So this is one of the most common and one of the most easiest way to validate idea that we have. You just have to look for unbiased opinions from online communities like Reddit or Facebook that are dedicated to our industry. You can also participate in online forums and discussions to have a general idea about the pain points of the customers, the potential concerns of the customers. And this is a very good way to get a sense of whether our idea will resonate with the target audience or not. So a very recent example about the community feedback system would be WhatsApp just launched a very new feature called the Meta AI. So today morning I was just chatting with my friends, and one of my friends started using the Meta AI feature in the WhatsApp group, And when I tried searching for the same feature, I was shocked because that was not there in my phone. Then when I looked into Google, it said that the WhatsApp group only updated the feature to a particular set of audience. So basically, WhatsApp was testing the new feature with a very randomized set of audiences. So this is a very good move to actually test the new feature that they want. And um, generally companies like fitness apps or these social media platforms they test their features on a selected group of audiences. Like these fitness apps will test their new features to only the gym trainers, to only the people concerned about health. But here, WhatsApp used a very randomized selection of users, and they just updated the feature on random people. And that is because for the AI thing, but they wanted the feedback from a variety of range of audiences, and that was the reason of the random selection of the users. So again, so even though this technique of community testing is a very old and very common technique, but this is a proof that many large companies are still dependent on these techniques to validate their new products. So moving ahead to the mom test. Yeah, 1 second. So when the mom test is a the mom fellowship was used in mom test. Right? So the mom is even in this reaction. I'm sugar for that and bring it. So sometimes, yeah, we might go to our hospital family members in one, but but our mothers and the family members, they always stand there to say yes to all our ideas, to just to enter into the but sometimes the work in the real. In the real world, we want, we want like honest feedback. We want people to come here because they have confused. Now, we should actually ask questions that they have answers. So, for example, the should be person some questions that are very easy to learn. So, for example, we should not, what we people just just say it's nothing more. But there are inside issues. They are questions that people don't. For example, how much would you be willing to pay for a particular service? Yeah, example, they are very important for the service. And this person, it was critically important. And it made it harder to simply see this. They just put the system behind. So they can be the one who for the expert and make sure that your idea is really for you. So this was the one that started and we just set up the station regarding I was eight developing this urgency in village. So overall, so uh, we, we already discussed the integration.
Guys, now I'll share the presentation now. You'll just join in a bit. There has been some issue. Is it visible? Please give me a thumbs up. Okay, great. Just give me 1 second.
Yes, is my voice clear now?
Yeah, it's clear now. We can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah.
I think we can
So
explain this, yeah, A/B testing part once again. It wasn't clear.
yeah. Okay. So moving on to A/B testing. So this is a method. So similar to how Google tests or different search results or layouts, we can also create different versions of a single product and then see okay, which one will resonate more with the target audience. So for example, all the mobile companies and the video game companies, they always yeah, launch their models yeah with the beta version of it. Yeah, so in the mobile companies we always have the fan edition of a particular model, and in the video game companies we have the beta version. And these companies do that to check if the features yeah, in the beta version or the fan edition are better than the normal version or not. So here the first one would be the model A and the second one yeah would be the model B. And by doing this, they try to experiment yeah both their models yeah, and then based on the user feedback, they finalize yeah on one particular model. So this is a so A/B testing is basically yeah cornerstone of data driven decision making that allows you to specifically compare different versions of your idea and see which one will resonate most with the target audience. Moving ahead, so these were the techniques to validate your idea, and we have a lot of techniques. Yeah, but these are the most common and the most effective techniques that we have. So after that, we have validated the ideas. We have to make the most of the feedback that we receive. So the first thing that we need to look is to prioritize the assumptions uh, that we made. So not all the assumptions that we made are yeah, equal, and we should focus on validating the most critical ones first. We should identify the assumptions that would have the biggest impact on the success of the idea, yeah, and prioritize or testing those first. We should also know that feedback is a gold mine of information. We should continuously adapt the idea based on what we have learned, and we should be open to iterating on the concept based on the insights that we gather from the validation process. So, as yeah, Richard from Feynman said, if it disagrees with the experiment, it's wrong. So many a times we just try to go yeah with a gut feeling, and no matter what, we don't deviate from yeah from what we believe is true. But sometimes what happens is that when we experiment things, when we validate things, so many of the assumptions that we were previously truly believing in, they might turn out to be wrong. But we should be strong, and uh, we should believe what the experiment has yielded. We should test the ideas thoroughly to validate their effectiveness, and we should not be afraid to experiment with different approaches and see what works best for our model. Yeah, and also sometimes validation may reveal that the initial idea that we made needs a significant shift. So we have to be prepared to pivot our concept based on the feedback that we receive. So, however, we should not we should avoid making drastic changes like based on every piece of feedback. So again, we should we should prioritize the most important ones, yeah, and then use them to guide our decisions. So, for example, Slack. You all might know about Slack. So Slack was originally yeah a game company which was then pivoted to a successful workplace communication tool based on user feedback. They discovered that their initial game concept wasn't gaining traction, but the underlying communication of functionalities yeah resonated much with the audience. And by pivoting their focus they were able to build they were able to build highly successful product. So these are the things that you need to do after validating your idea. And yeah, these were the 5 steps to validate your idea properly. But is that it? No. So actually, yeah, idea validation is an ongoing process. So we have something called the learning spiral, and yeah, it states that the road to a successful idea is not a straight line. Yeah, it's a continuous loop of learning and yeah, adaptation. So this iterative process, known as the learning spiral, is the heart of effective idea validation. So yeah, it basically states that the learning spiral is not a one-time process. So it's an ongoing cycle. So as you learn from each round of feedback and iterate on your idea, you'll need to gather further validation. You'll have to use the new information to refine your question, then to select appropriate validation techniques, and then continue the learning process. And this is the key to turning your initial spark of an idea into a market ready solution. And by continuously learning and adapting, you can increase your chances of success, thereby building a product or service that truly meets the needs of the target audience. So that was it regarding idea validation. We can move ahead to market research.
Yeah, thank you, Vedant. I'll continue with the part about market research and strategies. And it is the next very important step to idea validation. See, market research, if you want to succeed, you need to be able to adapt to the changing environment. And that's why it's important to invest in market research. It's a very helpful way to identify the and make smart decisions based on what's working in the actual market. Now, let me ask a simple question. Would you buy an expensive gadget without reading up on it properly? Like, would you skip out the researching about it competitors part? Absolutely not, right? That is exactly the rationale behind the concept of marketing research. We need to make informed decisions and we need to back them up with data. And whether you're a Fortune 500 company or a person who is just starting up, you can always benefit from market research. Yeah. And now let's talk about actual market, the target market. As you can see here, the available market is very big. The potential market is smaller and the target market is even smaller. And that is what you need to hit on. That is your goal. So identifying the exact audience on the basis of demographic or psychographic factors or behavioral or geographic factors, you need to take all of these factors in mind and then define your exact target market. And you can further identify your market by conducting maybe interviews with people like your important stakeholders, say your former customers, your current customers, your ideal customers. All of these will give you really important insights into who your target audience is. And you can also research your competition's targets. That is a very good way to identify a target market. And if your company has identified its competitors, it's a good idea to examine the market based on the segments they are targeting. Like, you can gain information from your competition's target market by analyzing their marketing materials and their social media campaigns, the channels they're using, the language they're using, the mediums, and all of these small factors will give you really big insights into targeting your ideal customer base. So, for example, if you notice that your main competitor is placing like short and colorful video advertisements on social media, and they are very popular young people, and this way your competition is tapped into the media savvy teenager segment. And you can use this information to reflect on what value your products offer to this segment and then develop your own marketing strategy for you to target them. And that is about identifying your target market. Now, I really like this quote. If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, said by Henry Ford. People don't know what they want. If you simply go and ask them, it isn't going to work. You need to get on ground and then do actual research on what is being used, who are the people using it, why are they using it. That is what market research is all about. Like here, you can see we are going into more of details about why market research is important, because as always, the why is the most important part. If you don't understand the why, the how and what is useless. So the first point, maintaining a customer centric approach. Market research is all about understanding your customer base better. And that is a very essential step to creating a customer-centric business. Now, customer-centric companies keep the customer experience at the forefront, and that is how they become successful. Second point, identifying opportunities for growth. Here, market research is a really important step for new companies or even companies like some bigger companies. Conducting market research periodically, it helps you discover new opportunities to improve and to grow. You can discover maybe new segments in the market. You can discover new business partnerships or even improvements in your own products. All of these will help you grow as a startup overall. And then making more informed decisions. Now, market research empowers companies to make more informed decisions that are backed by data. Because always remember, gut feelings are not a reliable means of making decisions. And this is what I've repeated a lot in the idea validation part as well. For instance, you may think like releasing a luxury version of your product at a higher price point is a great business idea. People will buy it, it will earn you a lot more. But are consumers even willing to pay the price that they associate with your brand? You have earlier positioned yourself as a brand of with budget friendly products, and now how will your customers opt for luxury products from you instead of the budget friendly products that you're offering? But we cannot also completely uh, brush this idea off, and the only way to know is to conduct market research, and that is why it's important. Another point being staying on top of trends. As I had mentioned earlier, that change is the only constant and you need to evolve with time. And it isn't just important for new businesses, even for older, developed businesses. It is very useful to optimize the way they connect with customers. And market research is a very valuable means of staying up to relevant trends. Like researching trends can be done on with the help of industry reports or research from your competitors. They can reveal some new product features, what the consumers are actually interested in. And the next point being, you can compete more effectively. Here, solid market research is the one difference that can give you a competitive edge. It's not the product, it's not the other minor factors, but simply some solid market research, just targeting exact customer and using proper strategies that are devised for targeting exactly them. That is what can give you a really big competitive edge in the overall marketplace. For one, by understanding your customer better, you may also be able to engage with them more effectively than your competitor is doing. Additionally, like competitor research can also give you a direct insight into your competitors' target market, so you can understand how you fit into the marketplace, how you can pave your own way. So now that is all about the why of market research. Now let's talk about the main thing. See, market research includes trends. You need to identify the key trends that are there in the market, and you need to work on facts. You need to work on numbers, reports, and guesstimates. It's not just about the theoretical part. The numbers, the graphs come into hand when you do market research, and the product. Like, can you develop? Can you like? Are there any available substitutes for your product in your competitors, or can you introduce a new product that can completely change the dynamics, or like who requires that value? Are you actually creating any value in the market, or it is just another copy in the market? What is new that you're adding? What is your USP? Or market research really helps in all of these. And now let us look at the different methods to do it. Yeah. So one of the first methods, and very good methods, I'd say, would be user surveys. And as the name suggests, that you have to go in depth, get customer feedback, and you need to understand why your users are using your product, what they like, what they dislike. And see, here's a glimpse of like some of the information you can gather with the help of market research surveys. First being demographic information. Data on your customers like gender identification, income level, age, their highest level of education, their location, a lot of these small informations, compiling them at one place, looking at them in the form of graphs, it really helps you realizing what is the exact person that you need to focus on. Purchasing habits, that is something you can collect from surveys. You can survey people's buying habits, questioning how often they shop from your business. Do they come weekly or monthly or daily? What it totally depends on what your business is. Opinions, you can also use market research surveys to ask your audience what they think about your product and services. It's very important to know what they think about them as well. And next point could be desires. Like, you need to survey your audience to gather insights on what they would want to see your business provide in the future, or what they feel like the market lacks that you as a company can bring to the table. what is that your ideal consumer is demanding from you, that we need this or we need that. Their intentions is also the something that you can discover about. You can discover whether customers would be more likely or less likely to shop from your brand if you provide if you provided certain services. So also their intentions is what you can test on. And let's move on to the next method. Yeah, that would be first click testing. So, see, first click testing is when you are analyzing that when a user is visiting your web page or your online interface, where are they clicking first? What is the order of clicks? What is how much time are they taking on each click? When you help customers achieve even these smaller goals, they're very more likely to buy from you again. Like for conducting first click tests, you can really optimize your interface for a greater customer success. And a very popular study revealed that if a user's listen to it properly, that if a user's first click is correct, they can have a 87% chance of completing the action. And if the click was wrong, less than half of the people were able to complete the task. So you need to realize that even one click, how much of a difference one click can make. It is very important to have a user-friendly interface for this. This also means that if your design is user-friendly, then the customers will have a better chance of achieving their goals. Now, see, when a customer visits your website or downloads your software, they have a goal. They have one goal in mind that this is what I want from this application. This is what I want from this website. But even if your product uh, is exactly what they're looking for, but they can't navigate your interface. They're getting confused. Oh, what is this? What is that? Where do I need to go in the next step? They'll quickly turn to the competitors, even if what the competitors of even if what the competitors are offering is not better, if not just as good as you are. Even if they're worse, they will go to the competitors if they have a more user-friendly interface. And one of the best features in first click testing is that the same test can be reused throughout the development process. Like design teams, they can continuously change the they can continuously throughout every stage of development they can test the changes until the product is absolutely perfect. And that is all about the importance and like how first click testing, even the minor changes can make a difference. Moving on to the next one. With it, we'll continue with this.
Yeah. So moving on, we have something called heat maps. So imagine where you can exactly see where the users click, they scroll or hover their mouse. Yeah, that is the magic of heat maps. And this visual representation provides insights into the user journey and the user attention. We have lots of types of heat maps. So these heat maps can track the sequence of clicks that a user makes in a website, and that reveals us the navigation pattern and the areas of high interest. We can also uncover how far the users have scrolled down a particular page, or are they reaching the call of action, or are they missing any important information. We also have heat maps where we can see where the users are hesitant or where are they frequently hovering their mouse on. And this can indicate the areas of confusion or the elements that might be unclear. And through heat maps, we can reveal the areas where the users struggle to navigate or find the information they need. And based on these user patterns, we can optimize the website layout, the button placement, or the content hierarchy for a very smooth and a more engaging experience. We can also identify the areas of the website or app that needs further validation processes. So while heatmap provides us with a very visual representation of the traffic that we have on the website, we have something called the web analytics tools, and they go beyond visuals. So they provide us uh, uh, with lots of quantitative data that tells us about the user traffic and the user behavior on the website. So through these tools, we can answer the following questions, like where are the users coming from? So are they arriving from some search engines, from some social media, referrals, or direct traffic? We can also understand the age, the demographics, the behavior, and the interest of the audience, and that helps us to tailor our content and the marketing strategies. And through these tools, we can also measure the engagement metrics. So as such, so how long the users are spending the time on a particular website, the frequency with which the users visit the website, or the frequency of the bouncing of the users. So all these things are we're able to find through these heat maps and the web analytics tools that we have. So, for example, so if you're developing a new fitness app, there we actually need to find the user pain points, the needs of the users. For that, for those reasons, surveys and interviews would be better. But when we move on to the websites, when we move on to websites and apps, these heat maps and the web analytics tools are of great use. So, for example, the websites our conversion rate is very low. And by conversion rate, I mean that the number of people who actually do the work that we want them to do. So, for example, for an online shopping app, so if we say that that a particular user is getting converted, we mean that the user is buying something. Yeah, for an online OTT platform, the conversion rate means the number of people subscribing to the to that particular platform. So suppose your website's conversion rate is low. So using the web analytics tool, we can identify which pages have the high bounce rates, and then the heat maps can be used to pinpoint specific areas where the users are struggling to find the information they need, or like complete a desired action. And this combined approach will help us to diagnose and fix the problems in the website, the user journey. So this was all about the market research techniques and the strategies that we use uh, do a complete market research. So moving on to case studies. We have lots of companies and lots of startups that have actually used these market research in their journey to uncover the user preferences, the user behavior, and market research is like one of the most critical stage in the journey of a startup. And we also have many companies that were not very great in the market research, or were not very great in actually getting the results out of the market research, and they have failed drastically. So we'll take examples of a few companies that have done a market research very well. So moving ahead, yeah. So take the example of Airbnb. So this company Airbnb, they wanted to explore the Israeli market. And upon entering the Israeli market, one major challenge for Airbnb was to understand the landscape and understand the user behavior of that particular region. So using web analytics tools like SimilarWeb, they set out to identify the international and the international market leaders. Uh, the analytics tools also provided them with the total amount of traffic and the source of the traffic of the competitors' websites. And they found out during their market research that their market mainly focus on newspaper advertising and display and search campaigns, etc. So they got armed with that data, and they were able to find potential partners. They were able to structure campaigns and optimize the media and buy. And so all of these led to successful penetration of Airbnb in the Israeli markets. Moving ahead, yeah. So one more company that actually went through market research and gathered the most of it out of it was Lego. So in 2004, uh, uh, Lego's sales was reduced, and Lego lost sight of its core identity. So they carried out a market research to discover what the customer perceptions were about uh, their company, and they found out the two results. The first one was that the users found the product very easy to build, and the products were not competitive enough. And they also realized that they were limiting their products only to boys, and they had a very less customer base from the female kids. So they conducted a market study and involved 3,500 girls and their mothers to understand what the children playing habits were. And as a part of the market research, they came out with the following strategies. So the first thing that they did was bringing back their old and popular JCB diggers and fire trucks to make the toys more competitive for the users. And they also introduced the Lego Friends series of girl figures, and scraped out the concept of yellow heads for toys. So again, this was an example where Lego conducted a successful market research, and they successfully they got known about the users' perception, and they made changes accordingly. So moving ahead, yeah. So as I said, we also had examples where some companies were not able to do market research properly, and as a result, the strategies that they made, the products that they launched, they failed drastically. And one example of that was the Facebook's first smartphone called First. So in 2013, Facebook partnered with HTC to launch a smartphone called First, and that smartphone basically used Facebook's interface on its home screen. But when the phone was launched, the phone hit the market with a muted response, and the sales were very less. So the poor sales and the massive product development cost could have been avoided if the Facebook had done a market research. So actually, what the thing was that the user never saw a need for the device because the features were already there in the cheaper iPhones and the cheaper Android phones. And because of the poor market research, Facebook had to back off from the mobile phone market. So this was again a story where they didn't conduct market research and they failed drastically. Moving ahead, we have one last company. Okay. So we have McDonald's. So at a time, yeah. So in 1991, McDonald's also tried to capitalize on the customers increasing the demands for healthier foods, and to do that, they created something called the McLean Deluxe. So that was a healthier burger, they they claimed it to be 91% fat free. But but again, the poor market research. So they overestimated on the number of consumers who were willing to go with the McDonald's to go to McDonald's for this particular burger. The burger was inconsistent, expensive, and didn't taste as good as the previous ones. And they realized that the customers were not satisfied with the burger, and they also realized that they won't sacrifice their taste for health. So as a result, they had to scrape down the particular burger after 5 years. So again, this was an example of how doing poor market research affected the McDonald's reputation, their cost, and all, etc. So these were some examples of these were some case studies that indicate the importance of doing market research at a very early stage during the startup journey. So yes, that was it, guys. Thank you very much, and hope you had a great time.
Praveen, over to you.
Yeah, that was a great presentation. Okay, let's move on with what we've planned for today. With it, I mean, Kanupriya, can you stop sharing? Cool. Is my screen visible? Can you all raise your hands if my screen's visible? Okay, cool. So, yeah. Today we'll be talking about what a minimum viable product is. Now that you know how to validate your ideas and you know how to market research, now our point is to create a minimum viable product so that we can roll it out and we can get user feedback and we can see how our product is doing in the market. So what an MVP for short form is called MVP. But an MVP is a version of a new product with just enough features to satisfy the early users. So it's more or less like a beta version of an app, but can be simpler as well. So the purpose of an MVP is to validate ideas quickly. So it's like giving a phone to your YouTube critics and asking them for feedback so that they post on their channels. It's somewhat like that, but yeah. So The principles behind an MVP. So the build, measure, learn feedback loop is something which is very important. So looking into it, it's we develop a minimal version of the product, and then we measure user interactions and analyze data to inform decisions for the next iteration. So here we give emphasis to learning and adapting. So we prioritize gaining insights over perfection. Here we don't look for profits. We here in this phase we look to perfect the product so that we can roll it out into the actual market. So once we release an MVP, it reduces our time to market because effectively the product that we've launched is already in the market. It's just not the entire product. So let's move on to the types of MVPs. There are many types of MVPs. So the first type of MVP is the concierge MVP. Concierge MVP is the manual service that mimics the product. So, for example, Wealthfront was a company that sent out a concierge MVP. So, what is Wealthfront basically? Wealthfront is a company which has an automatic portfolio management system. So, your stocks and your investments, if you give it to Wealthfront, they'll manage it for you and make further investments for you. So initially, when they rolled out the MVP, it was a manual transaction. So the users gave their portfolios to Wealthfront, and Wealthfront professionals did it themselves. What the proposed product was an automatic portfolio manager, but initially, as an MVP, they did it manually for them, and they knew that they were doing it manually. So yeah, and then later they rolled out the actual product, which was an automatic portfolio manager. So this is one type of MVP. The second one is Wizard of Oz MVP. So this one is an MVP which is also manually operated, but it appears automatic. So for example, as the one shown here, that's somewhat like an ATM machine. The woman's trying to draw out cash, but the guy is sitting behind and actually doing the calculations. So another example is that suppose, yeah, there was a shoe company once who listed all the shoes, the ones which he himself didn't have. So when a user placed the order, he went to the shop which had the shoe and he bought it and he came and delivered it to the user. So somewhat like that, it appears automated, but it's actually manually operated. So yeah. Another one is a landing page MVP. So landing page MVP is not the actual product. It just tells you what the product is going to do. And then if you like it, it gives you a link which you can click. So then when you click the link, it takes you to a landing page which tells more about the product. And it also takes your feedback if you're interested in, if you would like to try out the product. That's the third type. The fourth and the last type is a prototype MVP, wherein you learned Figma in the previous session, right? So in that type of MVP, wherein you have a low fidelity wireframe and you don't actually create the entire product with all the UI and UX design and all that. You just have a basic idea as to what is going to happen, and then you roll this out and you get user feedback. Obviously, they can't comment on the design because there's nothing there. So yeah, that's a prototype MVP. So now those are the types of MVPs. Now we'll move on to how we build an MVP. So with all the concepts that you've learned, so we'll see how to build an MVP. First of all, we define the problem. Before we start, we always define the problem, the product design thinking process. So we clearly state the product problem that your product aims to solve. We identify the target audience, the target market that we want to sell our product to, and then we understand user needs. So yeah, we decide what the problem is going to solve, and we understand what the user requires us to solve it. We might think that this is what the user wants, but we may not know exactly what he wants. So we'll research the pain points and preferences of your target audience, and then we'll start. So then developing the product, we'll list out all the potential features and then we'll prioritize them. So yeah, the core features is something we should list down before we start making the product, and then we develop the product. So then once we launch the product, feedback is the most necessary and important part of the loop. So we release the MVP to get on early adopters and collect user feedback through, however, surveys, interviews, and analytics. And we go back to step one and we reiterate on the product and we see what we can improve about it. So this is how we can measure the success of an MVP. So there are a couple of metrics that we can use. The key metrics are user engagement. So if it's an application of sorts, we can use something called daily active users, the ones who log in daily into your application and they see what's going on in the app. And the second is customer acquisition. the amount of new users and signups and conversion rate. So if it's a freemium based model, like you have a free version and then you can convert to a premium version, something like Spotify. So then we can see how many free users we are converting into paid users. That is called conversion rates. And then retention rates. And once users premium version has gotten over, how often does the user retain or pay again and continue using a product? So that's another metric which we can use. The second one is called performance metrics, how our system is performing. So we measure load time, responsiveness, and stability of the system. And error rates, how often our system is committing an error and why or where it is going wrong. And second is scalability. If we were to experience like a sudden surge of increase in our customers, will we be able to scale it into a higher scale or a bigger scale? Is what scalability is all about. Moving on, the next set of metrics are business metrics. Obviously, money is an important concern and important factor which comes into play, but that's somewhat later on. So then we see that we evaluate the financial performance, including revenue generated and development and maintenance costs. Market demand, we should also look into how the market is perceiving our product, and we see the interest, how many pre-orders we're getting for the product, and so on. So user lifetime value. So if a user buys our product once, how long he or she is using the product is another metric which we can use. So yeah, and the main part, again, coming to product market fit, is user retention and growth. So we assess whether users find the product valuable and continue to use it even after like one term of their subscription is over. Churn rate is something which is negative for us. Measure the rate at which users stop using the product. So like once a user stops using the product, we should know why he or she stopped using the product and what's making them do this. So yeah, and the last one is net promoter score. We got the user satisfaction and willingness to recommend the product. So you get the recommendation forms, right? How like, hey, are you to recommend our software to a friend? So those forms are ones called net promoter score. So how each user acts as a promoter for our own product. So yeah, what can we learn from an MVP, and how will this help us to create a actual major product? So learning from an MVP. So when we get surveys and interviews, we get qualitative feedback from the users. They don't give us any numbers. So they give their thoughts, from which we can learn and decide how to incorporate new features or remove certain features. So user behavior analytics, we track the interactions of users with the application, and we see what they're using the most and what they like the most. Feedback forms are directly, we ask the users for feedback and they give in their thoughts. So yeah, analyzing the MVP, again, as mentioned before, we use the key metrics. We see the pattern and behavior of users, as Vidit mentioned about heat maps. So we can use those, and the pain points the users find, the difficulties that the users facing when using our app. So the points where he's feeling difficult or he is not understanding what's happening with their application are called pain points. And then validating assumptions. So once we make an assumption that the user is finding it difficult here, or user likes this part, we can validate using our key metrics. We can put in and we can generate numbers so that we get satisfaction to ourselves that, okay, this is what is happening, this is what is going wrong. And then the last part is iterating. Iterating is going through the entire process again of feedback and all that. So where we can plan improvements, where we address the pain points, we can prioritize changes. So some changes may be like must have, and those changes should be prioritized first. We'll talk about prioritization techniques after this. So yeah, continuous feedback loop. Again, feedback's coming here because that's how important it is. We collect feedback from the users again, and we iterate through the entire process. So pivot or persevere. When do we know that we give up the project or we pivot the project to something else? And when do we know that we should persevere and go on and release this into the market? So first, let's talk about pivot. Pivot doesn't necessarily mean that you should shut down everything and close shop and go do something else. Pivot means that we can use this product to alternate it to a different market. We might have chosen the wrong market, and we might realize that this product may sell somewhere else better. So pivot when the user feedback indicates fundamental issues with the product score and product score value proposition or market fit. So the action that we take is we change the direction by altering the product, target market or business model. So what here we can do is we can alter the products in such a way that it finds a better market for itself, or even if it is in the same market, we'll have to make some changes and then release it. So that is one called pivot. Second is persevere. This happens when your MVP is a hit and people like it. And so we can go on creating the product. It means that our idea is validated and people like it. So then we can move on and create the actual product and sell it in the market. So yeah. So that was all about MVP and how to do it and what we can learn from the MVPs. So moving on to prioritization techniques. Prioritization techniques are the methods which you use to determine the order in which we do tasks. So to put it in simple words, we just decide what task is more important. And there are a certain number of techniques to do that, which is what we'll discuss right now. The first one is called Moscow method. Moscow stands for must have, should have, could have, and won't have. So must have features are the most essential features which are required, like required for the basic functionality and the success of the product. Should have features are important features that add significant value. But these features, even if they're not there in our MVP, should be fine. The user should not feel much of a difference. Could have features are the desirable features, like if I had that feature, my product would look so much better. Somewhat like that. Those are the features that enhance the product but are optional, as mentioned. So won't have features are the features that, like, it's not like we won't have it completely. It's like we won't have it as of now. It will be in a plan later, somewhat like a version 2 for the product. So I'll show you an example of how this works. So for example, if you have a task management app, so the must-have is obviously user login and task creation. Task management, obviously, task creation is a very important step. So should have features would be task categorization. So we should be able to categorize the tasks into different headings. And then calendar integration. So once a task has a deadline, if you're able to integrate it into a calendar, it will be a good feature. It's an important feature. So it's under should have. Could have is we have custom themes and collaboration. Custom themes, as in we can set our themes to red, blue, black, whatever we like. And collaboration is we collaborate with other teams on the same task and we get the deadline done. So that is collaboration, which is a could have feature which can be incorporated. And then won't have feature is somewhat like social media integration. So that feature is something like you have a task to post a video on social media by this date. That feature we can have later. It's not absolutely necessary as of now. So yeah, it's under the won't have basket. So the next one is Kano model. Kano model, definition of a Kano model is that it's a prioritization technique which categorizes features based on their impact on customer satisfaction. So this is something where we don't go by the conventional methods, rather we go by the user excitement. So as the graph shows us, the exciters is the blue curve that's given here. So we obviously have the basic features that we need, the features that which get the users excited. How do I put it? So yeah, that unexpected features. So let me show an example. So in a smartphone, the basic needs for the smartphone are obviously battery life and call quality should be nice. The performance needs are processing speed and camera quality. These are expected from the users. But suddenly, if you bring in a smartphone with a foldable screen, this is not something which the user would have expected. So it's a very exciting feature. And if you follow the Kano model of prioritization, this would come up first and we'd prioritize this so that we have a surprise factor and excitement factor to show the users. So yeah, that's about the Kano model. Value versus effort matrix. So some of you might have seen this before. So the value versus effort matrix is a 2x2 matrix wherein we plot effort on the x-axis and impact or value is on the y-axis, wherein where here we can categorize tasks easily. So the tasks which we should give more priority to are obviously the ones which have low effort but give us high impact. The second ones we should look at are high effort and high impact tasks. The third ones we should look in are low effort and low impact tasks. And the last one, obviously, high effort and low impact tasks. That's pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. So yeah, an example for the value versus effort matrix. So again, we'll go back to our task management app. high value, low effort is task tags. So if you're able to categorize or task tag tasks, then it will be easy for us, which is easy to do, but also has a high value. And the second one is high value, high effort is calendar integration. Integration is not something which is easy to do because there are a lot of calendars, Apple Calendar, Google Calendar, and all that. So yeah, that is not easy to do, but if we do it, it has very high value for our application. And second one, low value, low effort. Custom themes. Themes are just color based. So changing the color of the website is really not that hard. It's about one line of code. So yeah, it's low value but low effort. People don't really need custom themes when they look for functionality. So and then low value, high effort is voice command. So like you give voice command to an application and it creates the task for you. It's a high effort thing, but doing it manually is much faster and easier because the voice accuracy and all that is something of concern. So yeah, that's our value versus effort matrix. Coming to the last one for the day is called RICE scoring model. RICE is an acronym. It stands for reach, impact, confidence, and effort. So it's a mathematical one. The other ones are just plotting graphs and all that. This is rather, it deals with numbers. So, so yeah, we categorize a task or a product on these four grounds, with one is reach, second is impact, third is confidence, and fourth is effort. So reach is the expected audience or population addressed by the idea. Impact is the estimated effect or the positive effect of the features which it'll have on the users. Confidence is the estimated likelihood that the idea will work. And effort is the estimation of work and resources needed to implement the idea. So RICE score is, yeah, what they've given in the image is the formula. It's reach into impact into effort in divided by confidence. So how will I like quantify or give numbers to these four? There are standard set of what do I say? Standard set of rules that are there for the RICE scoring model, which you all can look up online. So yeah. So for an example for this is reach. So this is an automated task reminder feature for the our task management application. So the reach, for example, is 10,000 users a month, and the impact is medium to high. It improves productivity. Confidence that we have is 80% based on our surveys and previous rollouts, and effort is 2% per month for a year. That's what 2% month means. So according to that, when calculating the RICE score, it gives us 12,000, indicating that this feature is high priority feature and we'll work on it first. So yeah, to conclude that what we spoke about today, MVP, it validates the ideas quickly with essential features. It gathers early feedback to minimize the risk. So we roll out a beta version of our product into the market, and we get in inputs and feedback from the user to work on it and see how it is. Second main heading that we spoke about are prioritization techniques. We use methods like Moscow, Kano model, and RICE to ensure efficient resource use and strategic alignment. So what are your takeaways from this session? So we have clear vision. It ensures unified direction and goal alignment. User centric, we should remain user centric. We should always focus on user needs and feedback. Iterative development, again, this process is very important, guys. So taking feedback and going back to step one is something which is very difficult but also is the key to success. So doing it again and again is the way to go. And the last one is effective resource allocation using our prioritization techniques. So we prioritize what tasks are important for our product, and then we allocate resources accordingly. So yeah, that's it for today. I'll share the QR code for the attendance form in just a second. Also, I've enabled the mic for you guys, so if you all have any doubts, you can ask. I'll let the QR code stay over there for about 5 minutes. Guys, after scanning the attendance, don't leave as of yet. There's an announcement about the competition.
Hello.
Yeah.
Can I have the link, please? Like, my mobile phone scan is not working.
Fine. I'll send it in the WhatsApp group, guys.
Okay.
I'll leave it open for another 2 minutes.
Sir, maybe leave right now.
No, just a minute. There's an announcement about the competition. I'll give you that and then you can leave.
Okay, sir.
So anyways, I'll give you the assignment right now. Sorry, announcement right now. After session 8, today session 6, session 8 will be on next Wednesday. So we'll release a G form, Google form, wherein you can submit your final presentations, the case study that we gave in the first session. And the deadline you'll have 2 days after the day which we send the form, and the next day EOD will be the deadline. And then we'll effectively be judging your apps in a day or so, and then we'll have the competition. So if you've not started your works for the competition, please do so immediately so that you all can submit by next Wednesday. So judging criteria mainly will be the relevance of the product and how well you've understood the sessions and how you've used the techniques that we've told you.
How many pages are allowed?
The given amount is 6. It'll be the best if you can submit within 6 slides. If you exceed by 2 or 3 slides, it's okay.
Thank you.
Sir, actually, I want to ask something.
Yeah.
Actually, I have not registered for the competition.
Have you registered for summer school through the C5 website?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, then that's okay. Then you're automatically registered for the competition.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, there's no separate registration for the competition, guys. As long as you have registered for this summer school, you should be fine. And if you have registered through Unstop also, it's okay. It's the same thing. So yeah, I've
So
closed
if
the
the
attendance
session is
sheet.
over, can we leave?
Yeah, you all can leave.
Okay, thank you.
I'll stay here for another 5 or 6 minutes if you all have any doubts.
Okay, thank you. It was great. The session was really great.